Proformas. Folks, we're going to do a really quick drive-by here. This is something I get asked about, and this is also something I see not only on some of the message boards, but I personally get calls from some distressed owners about they were given a Proforma, they think it's going to do this much, and what metrics are you using, that kind of thing. This is way too deep of a subject to get into for the scope of this video, which is just a quick drive-by. I try to keep these short, but I'm going to touch on a few aspects of Proformas here. Let's just talk mostly traffic count right now. We could talk about population density a little bit, but let's say apples to apples, a population density is the same, but you have some different traffic counts. Folks, as I always say, it's about how comfortable, easy, and how well it flows. Okay, so as an example, I'm looking at a map right now that you can't see because I don't want to dox anybody's business. But this is an example I use often. This is actually in an area where there's 10 tunnels in a 5-mile radius. The population's only like 40, 50,000. And I'm not going to talk about any of those washes. Actually, it's about a Starbucks and a 7 Brew. And you people often hear me talk about 7 Brew. So in this area, there's a Starbucks on a corner, and the traffic count is 16,000 one way and almost 20,000 the other. So we got like a 35,000 plus car traffic count if you consider both traffic areas. Now, I know that's not exactly how you do it all the time. It depends on who you're working with and what they say, but let's just use, you definitely on the corner of both roads, can get to it from both roads, 35,000 car traffic count. Now, there's a 7 Brew, which is a quarter mile away, less than a quarter mile away, that only has the 16,000 car traffic count. If you go to this area, I'm always taking people here, showing them the car washes in this area because there's a lot of lessons to be learned with the saturation and the numbers of the car washes in this area. However, I always have them observe the Starbucks, and I've done this dozens of times. The Starbucks usually has 2 or 3 cars in it, in line. You go to the 7 Brew, and it could be anywhere from 7 to 20 cars in line. Typically, it can be 1.5 to double, but usually it's 3 to 5 times as many cars in the 7 Brew, no matter what time of day you're going. Usually 3 to 5 times the volume at the 7 Brew than the Starbucks that has twice the traffic count. Right down the road. Same population, same everything else. Now, what does it have to do with Proformas? Because what 7 Brew has figured out, and they just put a Chick-fil-A right beside the 7 Brew, actually, just open it up. And Chick-fil-A has figured out, but especially 7 Brew, let's just focus on them. It's about how easy and comfortable you can get in and out of the location, okay? First of all, they have double lanes. People just want to get their car in a line and relax. They don't want to make a bunch of super tight turns. They may make a few extra turns if you're like in a development area with other larger grocery stores and different things like that. They may make a few extra turns. In fact, sometimes a few extra turns is more comfortable because there's stop signs. It's just easier to get in and out of there, and it's easier to get out of the light and go whatever way you want. And that's what 7 Brew has figured out. How do we make this as easy and comfortable to pull in and out of our location? Now, this Starbucks here is a typical Starbucks. It's on a tight space. You have to make really tight turns, and you could go north or east from this location, but you can't really go west or south because the traffic light is just too busy and there's too many lanes. So you have this traffic count where it's easier to get to it from any direction the way the lights work. So you can get to it, but to get out and go a different direction, you can't. Now the 7 Brew right down the road, quarter mile, less than a quarter mile, you can go any way you want because you go north or south, but then you have some space, some time to get at the light and get whatever lane you need to get out of the light. Again, more comfortable. It's easier to get where you need to go. Why am I bringing that up? This is just one example of looking at a Proforma. It is as much of a science as it is an art. You need to have some people, and it's not even looking at your Proforma, it's how the shape of the lot is as well. I tell this to people all the time. People often ask me, how much land do I need to do this? A tunnel, an in bay, a double bay, a triple bay. It depends on the shape of your lot. You can have a killer site with a quarter acre or a site that doesn't work out at all because the shape of the lot is a half acre. Or you can have an acre. You can have anything. The point is, it's about the shape and the flow. So one thing you got to consider when you're looking at Proformas, or someone who has some experience looking at Proformas, you need a basic site layout as well. And you need to work with that site layout because is it a rectangle? Is it long ways, wide ways, super weird trapezoidal site? All this matters. All this matters significantly. And if you're going over a Proforma with someone, this is the conversation. It's a conversation you need to be having. It as an actual conversation where you're going back and forth and you're all brainstorming together. How do we lay out this site? Speaking of laying out a site, your architects. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. I'm sure there's a reason. Maybe a lot of it has to do with zoning and green spaces, that kind of thing. But they're putting way too many curbs. And mom and dad in their SUVs don't want to hit curbs trying to back in and out of the vacuum. Another thing I've seen is you try to pull right on the site and there's a bunch of curbing to try to control the customer going a certain way. You can control the customers in different ways. You can guide the customers in more friendly ways than giant curbing they're going to hit their car on, mess up their tires and wheels, make them angry, and they're never going to come back. So although some of these architects have great experience with car washing, you need to have a conversation with them and some other people who know what to look for and what to look at. Because again, I challenge you who have maybe some Dutch Brothers or Seven Brews, or just get on Google and start looking at maps, okay? Look at it from the satellite view and look at all the Starbucks and how tight some of these sites are, and then look at Seven Brew. See how many curbs are at Seven Brew? There is no curbs. There's barely any at all. It's just lines, kind of like a Chick-fil-A, all right? There's less things to hit. There's less things to worry about hitting. Mom and dad are in their giant SUV. They can't see how close they are to the curb. I can't see how close I am to the curb in my Land Cruiser. I have to hit the camera button sometimes. I don't want to do that. It's embarrassing, I know, but it's the deal. Some of these vehicles that are lifted up, it's not the 1990s anymore. We can see everything in your 97 Honda Civic. Make things easy, make things comfortable. I might change subcom sales to make it easy, make it comfortable. I don't know. Back to the Proforma and traffic counts. So again, you get a call, but traffic count. Why are some of these locations with like an 8,000 car traffic count doing 4 times what a typical Proforma would say? And why are some of them with a 20, 30,000 traffic count doing half of what they should be doing? Because of site layout, because of flow, and a bunch of other factors as well. That's the other thing I'll mention real quick about Proformas is if you do best practice. And best practice is a very complicated subject. For the most part, you want to make it easy. Get a clean car out, super fast, super easy, super comfortable. And everything else is just sprinkles on top. But as I've said in many of these podcasts, people are focusing on the sprinkles and they don't have the sundae right to begin with. Instead of chocolate and vanilla and strawberry ice cream and some hot fudge, they have some like Indian food and pulled pork chicken and ice cream on top of that. Then maybe some donuts. And it's things that are not meant to be together. But they throw the sprinkles on it and they think it's going to work. And I got to give it to McDonald's. Their flow is usually pretty good as well. That's one thing they have down. They might even be at a busy corner, but they have multiple ways you can get out. Starbucks has not figured this out, or they figured it out too late. So in conclusion, do some research. Research other businesses. And when you're out and about, go to as many Starbucks as you can just to see how the parking lot layout is. And then start looking at some of these up and coming coffee companies and how they have laid their flow out. And if you have both in the same area, go buy as much as you can and see the volume. It's not all about traffic count. That's all I have for today.